So, welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, October 8th, and it's time for another virtual Wisdom Council. And we're so glad that you're here with us, or if you're catching us on the recording. Tonight, we're exploring this idea of the call to illumination. And if you've been coming to the VWCs for a while or been watching the recordings, you'll recognize a little bit of a shift, but hopefully it's really that sense of sort of deepening into the work we've been doing for years now, which you've experienced here on the calls or when you come to the Sacred Center, but also giving you some new perspectives. So before Elle and I get started, I wanted to just make sure everybody's aware of what's going on the calendar. The next chill class, the next Chumpi Illumination class for the season of autumn is November 2nd and 3rd. So this class is really for anyone who has whether you've been in the Sacred Center and have been away for a while, you've taken one or two of the seasonal classes, you haven't taken any, this is the place for you to come and really begin or re-engage. So all you need to do if you haven't attended a class with Eleonora before is to take the online intro, which you can purchase and like as a video right from the website, and then dive in from there. So if you have any questions, try the easiest thing is to email Eleonora right from the email you would have received to be here today, info@sacredcenter.net, or just go to sacredcenter.net for some of those details. We don't yet have the 2025 calendar published, but that'll be coming soon because all of a sudden we only have 3 months left in the year and we have to start thinking ahead to that next season. But that sounds like a later in October thing for us to solve. For now, we'll be here and just focus on our energy on what we're doing tonight. So, Elle, we're going to talk about the call to illumination this evening. And the way we got to this topic was when Eleanor had just gotten back from the latest Peru trip. I didn't get to go, but maybe next year. But Elle was saying how it really, something was different. Something had changed. And yet at the same time, it was more of the same and such a profound deepening. So that's what got us kind of into this idea of how to take a slightly different perspective. So instead of going through and talking about a Chumpi stone or an essence and really getting into one specific meaning, it felt like the right thing to kind of pull the lens back and look at chill, I guess, in a holistic way, but also just to talk about why it really feels like a modality that's so meant for these times. So with that, Elle, do you want to speak into a little bit of, what this call to illumination feels like right now?
Well, it's undoubtedly a time that everyone acknowledges is very different and profound from any other time in our life. 2012 was supposed to be something, it was, but I say again and again, like I've incarnated in this lifetime for this time that we are just breathing into and just beginning the very specks of a beginning. And the Chumpies came to me, the stones came to me, the mountains came to me way back when. And they keep speaking their rhythm through the trips that I take, and also by being fortunate enough to make a living from actually helping and supporting people in their healing and in their life. That's kind of been my practice place. It's not like I go on a spiritual journey and then come back and then have these revelations. Like I'm seeing people daily for many decades now. And there's a rhythm to this place that everyone is at now. And I was telling Marisa before, there's something about not take, the gist of it is, maybe simply put, one of the things is like not taking sides. Sort of like if you're struggling or if we're struggling with something, it's being able to hold its complementary opposite together, not dismissing the pain, but acknowledging something that's greater than the pain and holding the two together. And then some alchemy happens where you surrender, and then something else shows up that you go like, oh, wow. And it also, way back when, we always talked about this non-dualistic way of living. And I think just having gone through the last, say, 5 years, where there's a lot of sides that people take, whether it's physical or spiritual or political or whatever, it seems to be a division. They keep talking about the division. Well, the Chumpies really they're a language of transformation, and they came and they're building their momentum, and they're having a profound place in our healing today. And so practically speaking, it's kind of like when we say like, okay, just be here now and just meditate, and it's like we live in the West, and it's like, well, how do you do that? Like the minute you say, how do you do that? The minute your mind is trying to do something, and it's going to lead you into failure, period. You'll never be perfect at it. You'll always be searching for the perfect meditation where you let go. And the whole letting go is where the Chumpies kind of showed up, because the form that we always are in. I don't know how much anybody knows about the stones, but one of the great things about it is that there's always a form, a geometric form. A simple one would be a triangle where you put a stone in each place. And then when you lay in that pyramid, let's say it's a pyramid, what I noticed about people is that they weren't trying to be the person on the table. They weren't trying to relax. They weren't trying to get out of their mind. All of a sudden, they just sort of sank into a deeper place of surrender. So just by having these stones around you, allows you to surrender into a place of the deeper place within you. So I think that us in the West, I'm very grateful that we have the stones. Now, the stones are a lot more complicated than that, because they're numbers and they're mountains, and they represent mountains. And I actually called,
Elle, why don't we pause just in terms of, we're giving a bit of an overview, which I think is
yeah.
really powerful. So they're mountains, like literally around the sacred valley of Cusco in Peru. There is really a direct connection where they are symbolic mountains, but there are true mountains that you've really developed relationships with over the years and over your travels. That there's something very special about that specific place that also gives us sort of a universal sense of connection, right?
So Cusco means center. And now there are points on the earth that are very important because they plug into the solar system and the universe, right? I mean, we're just not floating around here just unto ourselves. We're in relationship with other planets, et cetera, et cetera. Cusco is one of those places on the planet that is like a PowerPoint place. It's surrounded by 12 mountains. Each one of those mountains is a persona, is a very specific energy. And then they pulsate into the center. I spent I would go back to back to Cusco on my own, rent something, and walk this. People would say, aren't you bored with the same place? I would be walking down the same street, and seeing things. And what I noticed was that I passed the same places, and they looked like I was seeing them for the first time over and over and over and over again. And what I noticed was I didn't really need therapy when I came home. Like something lifted, things got resolved, like emotional stuff just kind of melted away. So I was in the pulsation of this amazing geometric formation where the mountains that are connected to different universes, et cetera, that come through that come through and like are centralized in Cusco. And that's kind of like the basis of that. Should I,
Well,
go
to
ahead.
say that in many ways we're sort of replicating that sort of experience. You're really naming that, like you walked, you surrendered, you were healed without the constant need to do and seek and chase. You showed up and experienced it. And in many ways, that's what we're replicating when we use the stones in the different geometric forms.
And we don't, and it's just going to sound really weird and simple, but there's no thinking that's involved. Thinking, whatever we think, we made up. The stones and mountains, we don't make up. They're real. They're there. They're like in the earth. So it's kind of like that energy like takes over, and your thinking is something that happens from within. Just by the way, because we're humans and we think and we, have to do things every day and we have to make sense of things. Do you know what I mean? So I think for this time, there's something very profound about that the mountains and the Chumpis are going to be very, very useful for us in a different way. I mean, they're complex, they're geometric formations, and each one means something different, but like at a very simple, and it's not simple at all because it's simple and yet it's not. If you look through on the web, it's kind of like, well, how can you evolve and how can you go beyond your, lineage, and how can you help, you know what I mean? It's how can you, there's a lot of rituals that people are doing, which are very helpful, but yet the doing part is not what the Chumpis are all about. It's the not doing part that, really is the powerful place where one really learns and practices non-dualistic thinking, really, where you can have two opposing thoughts or ideas and they surrender, and then you become a greater energy that includes both.
So without getting into the how to, because I think that's part of how you're talking, we really want to avoid that sense of that it being that. But could we talk a little bit more about this idea of what it means to dissolve complementary opposites? And maybe we just want to talk, I mean, we're going to be doing a different form later in the call, but maybe we just want to think about what it would be like to hold a 1 and a 3, and maybe just, kind of let people understand what that might be like, and maybe just give us a little more languaging around the specific Chumpi Stones for that.
Well, we'll say just the number 1 stone. Now, these stones, the English language is limited. If you speak Quechua, which Quechua is one of the oldest languages on the planet, and there are languages that sound like nature, Urpichai Sonkuchai, like it sounds like a bird singing, and it means a bird flies from my heart to yours, Urpichai Sonkuchai. Like the English language is a lot more literal. So the number 1, obviously, like just for example, is birth, right? Where we are birthed into this body, right? So birth, you would think, is a very positive word, but it comes with a lot of fear, right? It comes with a lot of fear because when you birth something new that you've never birthed before, there's a moment of fear that happens. So nothing, I think that's one of the hardest thing that I noticed about all of us is that we have to acknowledge the fear and in the birthing process. And we may not want to, after you embody both, the word fear might soften, like, in trepidation or hesitation, or it gets softer and softer to birth things. Especially if you've had like a couple of kids, the third one is like, here we go again. Not so bad. The first one is like, what the heck did I get myself into? So, so that's kind of like holding the fear and the birth at the same time, and allowing, seeing the mind. Now we have two parts of the brain. One is the linear and one is the intuitive. How do they bridge together? How do they work together? And like why we're always battling the two, and we can't always be in a meditative great space, right? No, I'll tell you why. Because we live here in an environment where it's every man for himself. Having had two very recent trips, one to India and one to Peru, where their culture, as crazy and as a many people walking the streets of India, and cars and buggies and cows and ox and monkeys, and I have yet to see one accident, because they move kind of like this. They sense each other and they move like a collective group. Peru as well. Peru, even in Lima, where you're scared for your life, nobody screams and curses. Everybody sort of like in Cusco, everybody moves in a gentle way. A lot of people on the trip who've been there at the first time said, "Oh, it's crowded, but I really like it here." It's a collective movement. Come back here after 3 days here, and I had a fender bender. Some young kid just whipped right past me and tore off my front bumper. And I was like, "Oh, I'm here." Okay. So I have to be a little bit more vigilant. But like, I don't live there, I live here. So the task is, how do I bring that energy, that connectiveness, that at ease wherever I am, but being alert at the same time to my daily life here. So I think the Chumpies are really important, like in that way.
Yeah. And so I love how thinking about all the ways in which your travel and being in different cultures and different ways of being have informed something really original to the Chumpies. And that, in terms of how we move through the world. I think the other thing we wanted to explore a little bit tonight too is the sense that the Chumpies are very much something we use here now. These are our tools. They are very connected to the mountains, to the earth, but there's also the connection to the cosmos. And there's that connection to the stars that really expands us into that something more. So should we talk about that a
And
little bit?
yeah, because our culture, we talk about the stars. We're very much in 3D, and we can expand up until the very edge of the walls in 3D. But again, our culture, even our spiritual teachings, we don't live in that world where the mountain is talking to us. We don't live in that collective world. So those of us who have devoted our lives to embodying the mountains get it, but it's again the non-dualistic way of doing it. But it's not like that there's anything better about it either. It's an evolutionary step that we're making now. Again, the difference is, I'm just hearing this now, is that it's collective now. It's not individual. We cannot do this alone. That's a big difference. That's a very big difference. We are here together. We need each other as a collective group to proceed, so that we can, become more enlightened and more illuminated without trying so hard.
And that's something you said, in our advanced class. You've been really saying that for years, that we've really been building up the container that's in the advanced class. And that's certainly one of the reasons why you have the school generally, right? Is that sense of, yes, you do so much healing for individuals, but it's when you're able to start developing these groups where people are coming together and using the stones together and growing together that the real magic starts to happen.
Yeah, and that's a great word, magic, because magic doesn't happen individually; it happens collectively. And I'm very grateful. Yeah, like I often say, like I don't even know what my. I mean, at this point, at this point, I think I think the reason for this call too is to really establish like a preface for a new approach to everything that we've already done before, but something greater that includes all of us. The beginners, you know, I always say like, you know, you might be like just an inch ahead of somebody. That's it, you know, like we're in a horizontal line now where we're all teachers for each other, and all you have to do is show up in a collective group. And also like, you know, first of all, the stones themselves are carved by someone that's very connected to the mountains. The stones originally they do come from the mountains of Peru. Now, the other thing too is having gone to the Himalayas, I have to just show you this little thing. You know, I probably was a mountain girl in a previous life or something like that. Don't put me in the jungle, but keep me in the mountains. And don't put me on a boat. I'm not a Viking. But so this little thing here, it comes from this crystal came off of Ganesha Mountain. Now, Ganesha Mountain is in the high Himalayas. Nobody goes there, number one, and nobody dares take stone from that place. The only way you get a stone is if, for some reason, it fell off of the mountain and somebody picked it up and brought it back, and then it came to me. So I brought it to Peru. So they put a little like top to it with the Peruvian and Andean symbol on it. So it's very, very precious for me because it is, again, the two mountain ranges, the two mega mountain ranges that are talking to one another. So we don't have to do all the work. They're guiding us. They are huge mountain ranges that are connected to, you know, galaxies and all of that stuff that we have to open ourselves up to. I did call Ruli. I want to just have you listen to him too, because he has a real Andean approach.
Help us with who Ruli is for those who haven't heard his name.
Oh, Ruli, has been, you know, he's been my guide from when he was 21. Now he's 41. So maybe at least 15 years. So, and first of all, he's Quechuan. His first language was Quechuan, which is unusual. And he knows every square inch of the mountains. So I called him before and I said, just tell me, you know, what do you think the mountains are, and what the opposite? So this is him. I hope you
The Apus. What amazing name the Highlanders choose. Apu. Yes, it is the spirit of the mountains. It is our God. It is our main protector. Any ritual, any activity, before we doing every single day, we ask the permission, the license, and then we offer in our coca leaves, and then we visualize what we wanted in this planet. Very positive. And the Apus, the mountains, they will connecting with the universe, and as we say, the universe is going to provide what we needed, what we visualize, what is in our mind, and it's going to happen. So the Apus are, as I tell many times, the antennas to connecting to the universe. Yeah, it's all the gratitude and the reciprocity with all those mountains. That's I can tell you about that. It's just amazing, this connection to visualize, to be one. This is such a nice connection, exactly, to be one. Humans, people, commoners, to be one with the mountains. This, let's say, this fusion, this Chumpi, the fusion of two different metals, to be one. Yeah. They are our main gods in the Andes. Well, thank you so much. I hope you can have a good speech about the mountains. And also maybe you can talk about the hierarchy, why we use three coca leaves. Because it's Apu, Auki, and Wamani. Wamani is the closer mountain where you live. And Auki is the middle higher where you live. And Apu is the tallest one, the highest one where you live. That's the reason we use the three coca leaves to connecting with each our protectors, the small one, the medium, and the high or the tallest one. Apu, Auki, Wamani. Thank you so much. We'll be in contact. Take care. Bye-bye. So about the Apus.
The connection, right?
Yeah. It just strikes me that, knowing he comes from such the most grounded place you could possibly imagine, and these are truths we've heard, these are ideas we've heard from other people, but he makes them into this such an embodied truth that just it's such confirmation of being onto something and being on the mountain and being connected in that way.
To the universe too.
Yes.
That's kind of like it's a ladder to get to the universe, right? And yeah. And so I don't know. So there you have it. That's kind of like where we're just, oh, because he also said Chumpi. He's the one too, because Quechua is his first language. Chumpi is belt, but Chumpi is alchemy. When you take two different stones, meld them together to create the third thing in Quechua. So of course, like I need all these different like affirmations along the way. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. you know. So, and that's the main thing is like the battle is over if we can surrender. And like the forms that come up with the Chumpies are, and I have to say, no, knowing kinesiology, I mean, things happen in your life for a reason, for sure. I mean, really being trained way back when with a
Say what
kinesiologically,
that is. Yeah. Say what kinesiology is. People might not know that.
yeah, it's actually like muscle testing, but you might have had a chiropractor that has used it on you, but it's taking it to a level where we're Googling basically the universe to ask the question of where to put a stone, what form to use, for what intention, what sound to use. We're actually being guided by something beyond ourselves through muscle testing. And like, it's been the most amazing thing to really like gather what I don't know that I don't know
Mm.
and have direction for it. And then the stones have taught me a great deal just by, having the expertise in being able to muscle test and ask questions and all of that. We've created this profound system based on what I don't know that I don't know, come to think of it, which kind of like really blows my mind, actually.
Well, as much as you use health kinesiology, HK, all the time as a practitioner, but you also teach it in the school. And it isn't just for, this is something I know you and I have been talking about, that the school itself isn't just to make other healers. It's really to empower people to be able to use the Chumpies in their own lives as their own sort of, transformers to then, and then also, I mean, for me, I don't use HK in my professional capacity, but I use it all the time for my family. And so much of what you're really seeing the direction of the school moving forward is to remind people like it isn't just so you can go out and become a professional healer. It's that this is for the work we all need in our own bodies and in our own homes, right?
Exactly, right. And then, you'd be having, you know, my, somebody will say like, oh, I'm having issues with strep throat or even something physical like that, or my child is, or my dog is. And then, they'd say, should I put the stones around them? I'm like, yeah, which ones? I'm like, well, test, see which ones and which formation, and have each energetic Chumpi stone in formation around, have the child sleeping within it. And you'd be surprised how potent it is. My own son uses them. My first little grandson is Avalon. He's 16 months old, and like everything he takes, he throws on the floor. It's like he gets a big thrill out of throwing everything on the floor. And he comes into this room and he picks up the stones and he just like looks at them and he feels them, and like you see him standing there. He don't throw them on the floor. He's, he just puts them back and then steps back, looks at me like, what happened? So, so they have depth to them because they're mountains, basically. They're mountains. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun to have something teach you as you have to walk through the doorway though. That's it. You have to knock on the door, somebody opens it and you go like, oh, this is what we're doing. And then we're being taught, how to become more greater humans, less warriors and not warriors, less division and more cooperation and less thinking and more working with the earth and with the beat with the energy of the earth, rather than with what we think we should be doing, all of that mental stuff.
With that, I think we should create some portals and all lie down. We all need to just soak this in now.
Okay, so does anybody here not have chumpies or stones? Everybody does. Yay. So what came to mind was well, the greatest, walk into any mountain's a pyramid. Walk into any pyramid, there you go. You're like, stand back, like I'm not in charge here, right? So the form that just came to me, a simple form, was the 6 side, like well, wait a minute. It's like it's this one. It's a 6-pointed star, right? Where you have the triangle, the pyramid, and then the opposite pyramid, right? I think it's a very powerful form, especially for today, actually. As above, so below. It's like complementary opposites is what this is. And so if you want to just lay down, get either your stones or chumpies and just intuitively pick them, or if you know muscle testing, do that. And I'll just play a few simple sounds. What does the sound do? The sound, when you're listening, you're not thinking. You can't listen and think at the same time. So that's why the sounds, and there's a few new sounds I brought back. So excited to share them. Okay? You can, let's come back here for the last 10 minutes or so. The, at the top of the page, I have down sacred time, which kind of like is important to say because when you're in the, with the sound and with the formation, like somehow time is different, you know, you lose sense of time. So sacred time means there's no beginning and no end. Everything sort of weaves together. It's a weaving. Marisa, did you? How was that?
It was beautiful. I rarely, even when you invite us to just pick the chumpies without testing, I almost always test. And today, I guess the surrender message finally got through to me, and I don't even know what I picked. I picked what was around, and it allowed me to really be in the form without thinking in a way that it was purely just like, here it is, triangle and triangle. You know, the way sometimes, you know, whether it's the mountain and the lagoon, if however we look at it, and I was so aware, especially of the triangle that ended below my feet, like a really profound way of just getting grounded back in. And I sort of love the way the bottom triangle is like, it's like holding a cup, right? It's like, okay, what am I here to receive? And so it was really gorgeous, even though right before we started, I found out that the dog ate all the hamburgers for dinner. So there are a couple of hungry people who just came home and said, Mom, did you put the burgers away? I said no. So there's a Pyrenees poodle sitting out there burping. And so even in the midst of that, I was able to lie down and completely surrender despite that. Plus I ate grateful belly already. So it was gorgeous. If we can get through that and still have a good healing, you can get through anything.
Yeah. I felt the definite the simplicity of doing and then just not doing, having it done to you, you know, which thing to hit and whatever. It just all didn't matter. It just was being, the instruments were playing me. And that's kind of the place in between where that's the intersection. And if you could just feel that for like a second, then it just grows and grows and grows within you. You know, just this complete surrender. And I just love that new rattle. That new rattle is so soft. It's like, ooh. Lori, I haven't seen you for a long time.
I know. It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had definitely supported in the form. I felt like I was in the form like the whole time. And it's like nuts and bolts were just coming out of my midsection and just clearing out. And then there was a group of women healers around me just like supporting that form. And then the white light, just like a beam came down, but I felt very connected to the stars, at the same time. But in the white light came down, but it stayed in the form the whole time. I didn't feel like I went out flying it was just very, very centered. And then I felt like pressure on me, like that, like the hands of somebody. And then when you did the bell at the end, the form just dissipated and then just gently closed over. Yeah. Felt very energized, like just like this big beam coming down in that form the whole time.
I think you mentioned the women. That's what I've been noticing, is that there's a lot of like the women, feminine, the
Mm,
collective mothers
mm,
energy is a little bit different than before. You know, there's a lot of mother
yeah.
collective energy birthing, you know, happening now.
Mm-hmm.
If I could describe it.
Yeah, yeah. They're definitely felt supported in it tonight. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Denise, is that you?
That's me. It's dark in here. Hello. Um, I immediately reached for 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. They were in my room under my bed. And I was like, oh, I won't use those anyway. And then when you said grab chumpies, I was like, those are exactly the ones that I need. So I grabbed 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So I had each triangle had 1, 2, 3 in it, and it was amazing, and it was women. Immediately
Oh,
felt
really?
like weaving. There was an ancient woman weaving on top of me initially, and it felt like like the thought of Peter Pan weaving, like sewing his shadow back onto him. It felt something like a very much of a unification in some way of some little, I don't know, it just felt like a lost piece of myself just weaving back together. um and it was beautiful. To echo Marisa's, that it was absolutely just a beautiful. There were so many crystals and women healers, and the antlers. I had some deer or elk around, and they were like in the background. And then there were like flowers. It was really just beautiful. And then when you rang the bell at the end, there was like a seam that opened up, like through my center line. And it wasn't like, um it was a super positive. It was almost like allowing the good out and the good in. It was like this opening that maybe it was really profound. Actually, it was very nice. I didn't necessarily feel the two triangles. I just kind of sunk into, after my brain clicked, checked out. Like I had the chumpies in place, I checked out of it, and I just sat in the formation, and I just went somewhere else. Like I wasn't even aware where it was. Yeah.
Yeah, then that's the thing is you just, yeah, surrender to the shape
Mhm.
doesn't matter. Once you surrender, it's for that reason. You just so brought to my mind, like today, there were three bear cubs. Like I had a client here and she's like, oh my gosh. And there was this mother bear. She had a big white, and we haven't seen bears for months now. This mother bear had this white here, was standing right at the edge of the forest. And these three, I mean, they were like this big. They were like just playing around, like, you know, looking in the window, playing around. It was like unbelievable. It was like, oh my gosh. It was like, you know, I don't know, this little miracle that like I saw, you know, with the mother and the three little bears. And they were so tiny and they were just as happy as could be. So you just brought that to my
Beautiful.
attention. Yeah, yeah, the mothers.
Yes.
Um, well, I hope I don't know what we're going to do next time. Um, I don't know. Marisa, do you?
Well, I have a great faith that it shall be revealed when the moment is ready. Because I think there's really something to, we've been so devoted to the form we've kind of followed in terms of going through each stone and going through each essence. And I really love what we're doing that here. It kind of feels like this pulling back the lens and looking everything really holistically. So
and
um
and
feels
and
like
it's rooted because it's not like a theory or a theme. It's like rooted already. It's reality. So once you build a house, then you could actually, you know, like in Peru, they never finish houses. It's always crazy. Like they'll have three levels and then the top is still not on. I'm like, where's the top? They're
right.
like, oh, mamita, We will build it. So, but the foundation is there and the walls are there and the kitchen is definitely there. So, and it really does take a village, and it's something that we're creating here, but the foundation is here. And I'm just encouraging myself to really shake the deck up a little bit and like like entice people to come to the school. I mean, in person, I like much better than Zoom, but we do have Zoom because people don't necessarily live close by.
Right, so
So,
it's actually an option for folks to either come in person to Warwick to be in class, or set up the laptop on the little lazy Susan. And it's we all know it's the next best thing to being there in person, but it's been
and
really,
I've gotten pretty good at it too,
yeah.
even though I complain, I'm pretty good at it.
Right. And I just want to
Energy's
reiterate,
energy. It doesn't
and
need
it
to be in
works.
person.
Right. And especially, knowing that the focus of the school, just to reiterate what Elle's been kind of trying to really live into for all of us, is that it's about not necessarily becoming a practitioner in a professional sense, but it's a practitioner in your own sense of how you would use this illumination, this magic for yourself. And then that's how we influence the collective. And it
Oh,
goes.
by the way, it is magic. Okay, let's just keep
I
using
mean,
that
I'll
word.
use that word all the time. So I'm always trying to be careful because, like, in my world, I just throw it around like sparkle dust. But I learned
Yeah,
that from you.
yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and I
I
think we're,
feel like we're such a heartfelt group, so I really appreciate that, and appreciate everybody taking the time to come together.
yeah,
And if anybody wants to, talk to me personally, just please give me a call. All
yeah.
right?
We want to end here as our hour is just wrapping up. But thank
Yeah.
you all so very, very much for being part of the magic. And yeah, I'll send the recording out tomorrow, and we will see
Peace
you
out,
in
people.
November. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Peace out, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
Thanks.
you.
Bye. Love you
Bye.
guys.
Love
Yeah.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.